Our next question is, how real is the airborne risk and over what distance? In an open plan setting, would all children in different bubble spaces need to isolate if one child was confirmed with COVID? Duncan, could you perhaps speak to that?
So John might have some different information, but the reason why the 2 metre limit was set originally was that if somebody stands and the big droplets that come out of their mouth, the vast majority of those land within 2 metres. So that was why the 2 metre limit was controlled. We're now at 1 metre plus, but we're trying to, certainly within Bradford as well, to say that 2 metre limit, especially within schools, really needs to be adhered to as much as possible. The very, very small aerosolised droplets can float around in the air for a couple of hours, and that's why we really want to get ventilation as good as possible within all classrooms and so on. And what will generally happen is that if a child has been in a bubble, where Public Health England will take the view that, especially with younger children in primary school, it's almost impossible to keep them 2 metres apart from the whole time. So it's likely that the bubble or the class will be excluded as case contact, but not in terms of the whole year. So as bigger schools come back as well, obviously in the guidance, the bubbles talk about whole years in secondary school, which is, that can be 200 or 300 children in the bigger secondary schools. But there isn't obviously going to be 300 children being taught in the same place at the same time. So again, it goes back to those bubbles. So that's why trying to keep the distance between bubbles and trying to keep the corridors moving and things like that really minimises that chance for children to spend longer. It's difficult for them because they obviously want to talk to their mates. We've just got to try and reduce it as much as possible. And going back to what John was saying about the evidence around outbreaks in schools, one of the things that we've been surprised about over the last month is when we did start to get this flood from the test and trace system of schools with cases. Most of them were in staff members, as I said, but where we had cases in children, we were expecting all those children to go home and then get tested and then find out that another 10 kids had coronavirus. That just hasn't happened. I think out of all the outbreaks that we've had 1 or 2 children in the vast majority of them, and there's been more staff members. So, and it's not because we're not seeing them because they're asymptomatic, they're actually testing negative. So those sort of super spreader environment within children's bubbles doesn't seem to be a big risk at the moment.
Can I just add briefly to that? One of the things we found in the hospital, we were concerned with aerosol generating procedures, ventilation in particular, because that seemed to be the key risk of transmission. What we're finding when we've tested everybody in the hospital, about 4,500 staff out of our 5,500 staff so far, and the people who are wearing PPE, obviously, but the people in these environments don't seem to be infected as much as elsewhere, which is counterintuitive. So a lot of the work that's been done around airborne transmission is experimental, and this is the gap. We are trying to look at clinical and real life evidence rather than experimental evidence. And children, part of that transmission risk is when you have symptoms, when you're coughing and sneezing, that's the risk. And the fact that the children don't seem to get these symptoms or get very mild symptoms probably reduces the risk of that spread when they do have it.
Excellent, thank you both. Our next question is around the use of musical instruments and play equipment such as Lego. And the question is, what is a feasible and meaningful approach to cleaning such equipment? Perhaps it's using and cleaning such equipment.
So there's 2 parts. The musical instruments, I mean, oh God, who knows? We know that choirs are super spreading events. We have our own Bradford choir, which is one of those examples. And I think musical instruments will be low down on the list of things to be introduced. When it comes to things like Lego, I think that's, contact and cleaning and that sort of regular process of cleaning surfaces and objects as much as we can.
I think you've already answered your own question to a certain extent. So in the clinic rooms, we've removed a lot of what we'd normally have there that is difficult to clean, and we've focused on things that we still really want children to be at ease when they're coming into the room, but just things that you can pick up and wipe really easily, all the surfaces afterwards. So yes, we would be using those in the trust and just wiping them afterwards between children.
Sorry, there should be. I'm thinking of wind instruments when we're thinking about musical instruments, because that's my natural thing. Presumably you can play drums and things, maybe, which is probably piano and stuff.